Hello and welcome to Community Chats. I'm Aley Hammer, and today we're joined with Dan Mclean, the head of digital at Guzman y Gomez. Dan, welcome to the show. Can you start by telling our audience a little bit about Guzman y Gomez?
Hey, Aley, great to be here. Thank you for having me. GYG's got a great story. It was started by two American guys. They'd immigrated across to Australia, and they were living in Sydney. And they'd had success in their past life, and so they'd started to dabble around with a few little hospitality businesses. I think they had a wine bar at one point, and they were sitting down reflecting on like what that landscape looked like, and they realized that one of the things that we were missing here in Australia was like really good, authentic Mexican, like they remembered from their childhoods. They had a whole stack of Latino friends, and like they had lots of backyard barbecues and that sort of thing. And so they decided to try and give that a shot, and they opened up our first store in Newtown, and it just went from there. Like it was very successful, and then they actually had other people reaching out to them, sort of saying, "Oh, cool, can I open up one of these stores in like Manly or various places?" And that's how the whole franchise stuff got started.
That is honestly such a cool story. I love that Guzman y Gomez started from such humble beginnings, because, to the layperson, we just see hundreds of thousands of stores and we think it's this big global giant. So very cool, humble beginnings. And Dan, what is the unique problem that your business faces that AWS is actually helping to solve?
Wow, okay, that's a big topic. The majority of my work is around our digital properties. So we've got order ahead apps, websites, and about 7 years ago when I started, we had some really talented people who sort of noticed, or they could see where the landscape was going around this digital, and realized how important digital was going to be into the future. So they really set us up with some good foundations and started this sort of digital transformation process, which has just been ongoing. I don't think it's ever going to stop, really. Yeah, so back then, the digital transformation started with a pretty basic premise: how do we put a digital store in everyone's hands? And then as we've grown and grown, we've had to scale that right out. That's been made possible by AWS and the Arcus infrastructure that we've got access to there. Once upon a time, servers were on-prem or sitting in a data center. So you not only had to be a developer, you had to be a system administrator as well. And, scaling just wasn't that possible. You had to physically go down extra hardware, implement it. So really the ability for us to scale on AWS has really been a major part of that solution. And also, having all of the managed services, so that, we've got a relatively small team in-house, but they just get to focus on developing and making the product as good as it possibly can be. We rely on AWS for a lot of that infrastructure. We've since moved on, it's not just the apps that we're dealing with now. We've also got a stack of integrations in with things like the delivery aggregators, so UberEats, DoorDashes, that sort of thing. So that's huge labor saving for us, because once upon a time, the orders would come into those little tablets in the stores, and then there'd be someone physically having to just basically transcribe the orders into a point of sale system. Now that we're directly integrated in with them, the orders come in, we process them and deliver them straight to the store, and they just print out. So that's literally saving, labor costs we don't have. And it was really annoying to the guests as well, right? Imagine, you walk up to the front counter, there's 4 point of sales there, and there's a huge big queue, and there's someone, one of the staff, just sitting there basically ignoring the whole queue. And it really annoyed the guests because they didn't know what they were doing. So just little things like that, have made huge impacts in our business.
Well, a huge congrats on launching your first fully serverless managed service API. That's a huge project. And Dan, how would you say that your approach has increased third-party integration? You spoke about, UberEats a little bit before. So can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, we don't have a huge development team here, but what we do have is like really good people, and we try and use the very best tools that we possibly can. And what that's let us do is be really nimble and adapt to the landscape as it's changed. So we were one of the first companies in Asia Pac who integrated in with UberEats. Which was a pretty big thing, like I think at the time we had there was 3 of us doing it, and we were basically the first ones after McDonald's who UberEats made that integration for, and using services like AWS and keeping these small, talented but nimble teams means that we can work directly with those guys. We're not doing it through an agency, and I've had that quite a few times. It's like, all right, so who will actually be doing this integration work? And you sort of say like, oh, us, we'll be doing it in-house. And a literal sighs of relief, like, oh, thank God, it's just being able to work directly with those guys is a huge advantage. And look, we've recently started working really closely with an agency, Bellew, but in a very much more of a partnership model. So they've come in, they've expanded out our capability there, and they've grown and mentored our team, and have really given us access to some of the new really cool AWS functionality and features. So the last iteration of our APIs was all completely serverless, so all using Lambdas. So I've just been able to switch off about 10 or so EC2 servers. So that was sort of a bit of an exciting moment. It was out with the old and in with the new.
Very cool. Wow, I mean, that's so remarkable. You're so humble, but honestly, being one of the first in Asia Pacific to integrate UberEats, and also one of the first retailers to integrate with Apple and Google Pay, is so phenomenal. So, I mean, hats off to you guys. That's amazing. And it does show as well how fast you guys move at Guzman y Gomez. So Dan, I wanted to end off this interview with another question around this transformation and how it affects, your integration with other businesses to reach more customers. And also, how do you see this approach kind of continuing to transform your business in the future?
Gotcha. Yeah, look, we've literally got more work than we can handle. I reckon I could triple the size of my team, which over the last, let's say 16 months or so, has already basically tripled. I reckon I could triple them again, and we'd still have a stack of work there to be done. We've got a huge roadmap of features that we want to implement, lots of really cool ideas, and that's the stuff that directly affects our own properties, our apps, our websites, all that sort of thing. But aside from that, we've also got basically every department in GYG has something the equivalent of a transformation project manager. So in all of the internals, everyone is starting to pick up these systems that need to talk to each other. And if there's no out of the box integration solution, that's where the digital team often comes in, and we will then stitch together all of these different disparate systems so that the data's flowing nicely between all of them. And I think that's a task that could, I could spend the next 5 years doing that, rolling out those integration pieces, making sure that the data is accessible, is visible, and we're running the right processes across it so that we can really start to leverage that data and make real good data-driven decisions. And that that affects all of the internal departments. It affects all of their planning. It affects and our guests, right? So we want to use that data to be able to be proactive towards them, anticipate their needs, and basically just try and constantly increase that guest satisfaction.
Well, I love your company's drive and how you're constantly transforming your processes. I agree. Data is huge, and it's an area for potential expansion. And I no doubt will be watching along your digital journey as you continue to grow in the future. So Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show. We love your business. We love working with you. And it's clear that you love working at the company too. So thanks so much for partnering with AWS. And if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. Thanks so much, Dan.
Thanks, Aley. It's been a pleasure.